Hello, everyone. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your Wednesday afternoon here, or morning, depending on where you are. We're just about a minute early, so we're going to give everybody a chance to file in, and then we'll get the webinar started. Thank you again for joining us. All right. Looks like we're on the hour mark, and welcome, everyone. I do, once again, want to thank you for being here today. My name's Shay, and today we're going to cover something I know a lot of community managers and board members think about around election season. How do you actually get every resident to vote? And we're not talking about just the ones who are online all the time, not just the ones who open every email. We're talking about every resident, including the ones who insist they do not do things on a computer. So over the next course of time here, we're going to be looking at why Quorum feels out of reach for so many communities, what is really standing between residents and their ballot, and 6 specific strategies you can put into place right away. And we're also going to incorporate a live demo of the ballot list system later so you can see how everything works in action. Your mics are going to be muted for the duration of this. It is a webinar, but we have the Q&A open in the meeting in the Zoom. So if you have questions, you can feel free to drop those in there, and we will be circling back to those at the end as well. And then finally, before we get going, we do have a few polls. So if you've been a part of these before, you probably understand what I'm talking about. But there will be a few questions that we're sprinkling in. This helps us drive future development. It's very helpful for us. So we do appreciate your participation. Just a few questions along the way as we go through. And so on that note, let's get started. So before we dive in, for anyone who's not familiar with Ballot Bliss, our vision is to help organizations make the transition to e-voting effortlessly through a simple, secure, and defensible online voting platform. We were founded in 2024, but we're partnered with Polaris Software, which is a well-known association management software that's been in the industry for over 16 years. We're also members of organizations like CAI, ECHO California, CACM, and a number of other industry-specific organizations. A little about me. Again, my name is Shay. I've been in the property management and HOA management industry for now almost 9 years, almost 10 years actually. I've onboarded hundreds of communities during that time. I've worked closely with many associations that have recently conducted their elections with Ballot Bliss and helped their communities achieve quorum. Before this, I worked for Fidelity Investments for several years, and it also happens that our CEO and our lead developer were with Fidelity for over 10 years. So we do bring this enterprise level mentality to everything that we do. So, but that's enough about me. Here is what we have in store today. We're going to start with the quorum problem itself and why most communities fall short. Then we're going to talk about the real barrier, which is probably not what you expect. From there, we will look at who is actually in your community and why that matters deeply for your election strategy. We will then walk through 6 proven strategies for making voting more inclusive for every resident. And then after that, we will jump into the live demonstration so you can see Ballot Bliss in action. And finally, we'll close it out with what next steps you would need to take if you wanted to sign up and a Q&A session. And before I jump right into the presentation part, I would like to just get one quick read on the audience. Again, this is truly helpful for us. And the question is, what is your biggest challenge when running an election for a community? And I'm going to open up the polls here just for a moment. If everybody that's participating would give their input, we greatly appreciate this. So I'll give everybody about 15 to 20 seconds. All right, starting to see some results coming through. Pretty even spread across all of the different things. So some have said reaching quorum as their biggest challenge. Equal amount of all of you guys have different of each of these issues. So it sounds like it's a pretty even spread amongst the audience here. So, but once again, thank you so much. This does greatly help us as we drive further in developing our product. All right. So I'd like you to take a look at the two numbers on your screen. On the left, what your governing documents require, and on the right, what communities are actually getting usually. Most governing documents set the bar at 50 to 67% owner participation. That's the floor. Below that floor, your meeting cannot be called to order and your election cannot be certified. The average actual turnout sits between 30 and 40%. And that's from the CAI Research Foundation's 2023 Community Association Factbook. Before a single resident has even been asked to vote, most communities are already behind. That gap is an industry-wide pattern, and understanding it is the first step to breaking it. On the slide on your screen, it lists 4 things that happen when quorum fails. I want to spend a moment on each one because the ripple effect tends to go further than people realize. The first thing that happens is that capital projects get delayed. Think about what that means in practice. A roof assessment, a pool renovation, a parking lot repaving that has been on the agenda for 2 years. All of it sits on hold because the board cannot legally move forward without a certified election. Residents start asking why nothing is getting done, and the board has no good answer. The second is costly re-elections. Postage, printing, legal review, staff time, and scheduling a new meeting. For a larger community, that can add up quickly. And you are spending that money a second time on something that should have been resolved the first time around. The third is eroded resident trust. When residents feel like the governance process is not working, they disengage further. And disengaged residents are harder to reach in the next election. So it becomes kind of a vicious cycle that feeds itself. And then the final is legal exposure. Boards that can't demonstrate a properly completed election process can face challenges from owners. And that's a headache that nobody signed up for when they joined the board. And every single one of those outcomes is preventable, and that's what the rest of today is going to be about. So here is where I want to challenge a very common assumption. So most boards and managers look at low election turnout, and they think the problem is apathy. Residents just do not care enough to vote. That framing leads you in the wrong direction. Residents are staying home because somewhere between receiving the notice and casting a ballot, something got in the way. In most communities, that something is perceived friction around technology. The 3 objections on your screen are ones you've probably heard. Let me give you the other side of each one, because each one has a real answer. When a resident says technology is too complicated, they are telling you something true about their experience. 69% of older non-tech users say technology feels too complicated, and 78% say it is too hard to keep up with. And those are significant numbers. The friction they are imagining is usually much worse than the actual experience, though. With Ballot Bliss, a resident clicks one secure link in an email or text, makes their selections on a clean, simple screen, and they're done. There's nothing to download, no account to create, and no password to remember. When residents actually go through it, the most common reaction is that it was easier than they expected. And when a resident worries that their vote might not count if they make a mistake, that is a trust problem, and it is completely solvable with good design. A well-built ballot walks them through one question at a time. If they try to move on without making a selection, it catches them before they submit. When they are done, a confirmation screen and a receipt email tell them clearly that their vote was received and counted. That moment of confirmation matters more than people realize. And when a resident says they do not have internet or a smartphone, that is a genuine access issue that requires a different path entirely. We're going to cover the hybrid model shortly, and the short answer is that digital never has to be the only option. It just has to be the easiest one. And so how do we fix this? Now let's talk about what actually moves the needle. We have 6 strategies, and these come directly from what we see working with communities that consistently reach quorum. And the first strategy sounds pretty straightforward, but it is the foundation everything else is built on. And the question is, or the strategy is, know who is actually in your community before you design your election process. I have seen managers assume their community is comfortable with technology because they got decent email open rates on newsletters. Email open rates for newsletters and email response rates for elections are 2 very different things. When there is something at stake and a deadline attached, hesitation kicks in. A 55+ community is going to have a higher proportion of residents who genuinely prefer to pick up the phone, check their mailbox, or talk to someone face-to-face. That is a variable to plan around. In mixed age communities, you often have a meaningful percentage of residents without reliable internet access or smartphones, and management teams frequently underestimate that number until they are already mid-election and wondering why response rates are so low. The goal is never to push everyone towards digital. The goal is to make the path of least resistance while making sure every other path still works. When your process is designed that way, you capture votes that would otherwise be lost. And before I discuss this next strategy, it is important to note that while the following timelines are a general guideline, you should still refer to your state laws and governing documents for exact communication timeline requirements. And that next strategy I'm going to talk about is about starting earlier than feels necessary. The communities that typically miss quorum most often are the ones that send their first communications out 30 days out, sometimes as early as 2 weeks out. And by then, you are already behind. The 90-60-37 framework treats election communication as a campaign rather than a notice. At 90 days, you're making an announcement and starting the conversation. You are also doing something critically important, which is asking residents how they want to be reached and how they want to vote. Getting that preference data early means you are not guessing when ballots open. At 60 days, you shift into education mode. A lot of residents who are hesitant about online voting have simply never seen it. A step-by-step explainer with screenshots demystifies the process before it starts. You're also not doing your data hygiene work here. Any residents, actually this is where you're doing your data hygiene, I apologize. Any residents with no email or text number on file gets flagged down so you have time to reach them by mail or in person later. And then at 30 days, ballots open and you hit every channel simultaneously based on the resident's preference. Email, text, and postal mail all go out at the same time. Board members personally reach out to the residents who were flagged at 60 days. And then finally, at day 7, you do a full reminder search, all 3 channels again with the same 24-hour window. And if your quorum tracker is showing you are close, share that progress with residents. People tend to respond to momentum. Telling residents that you are 68% of the way there and need their vote is more motivating than just a generic reminder. And on that note, I would ask again for everybody's participation. Thank you so much. On this poll, we're asking which communication channel do you find hardest to reach non-responsive residents through? And I'm going to open that up right now and give everybody about 20 to 30 seconds or so. Again, we do appreciate your participation in these. They are extremely helpful as we develop our product further. I am seeing the majority are saying postal mail, which makes sense, since there's no way to audit that or no, deliverability. And some others even said all of the above. So just having general lack of luck with reaching anyone. I get that. I get that. It may feel like that sometimes. So we'll definitely aim to show you guys how we can remedy that with our system. And again, we do appreciate your participation in these. All right. So the next strategy I'd like to discuss is about channel selection. And the guiding principle is to meet residents where they already are rather than asking them to come to you. Email gives you room for detail, the ability to provide instructions, FAQ links, and a prominent button that takes them straight to the ballot matters more than people think. A text link buried in an email loses votes, but a branded email with a clearly visible voting button gets clicks. Text messaging is more familiar to older residents than many boards assume. Today, more than 75% of adults over 65 own a smartphone and are already texting regularly with family and friends. Staying connected with loved ones over the years has made texting an everyday habit for many elders. A voting invite that is sent directly to their phones through a text can be more effective than an email that gets buried in their inbox. And postal mail is essential for residents who do not have email or a phone number on file. Make sure the letter has large print, clear instructions, and a return envelope already addressed. There should be no guessing required on their end. And a paper ballot submitted by mail goes directly into the same ballot bliss system as the digital votes. That way the audit trail is unified. There should be no separate paper pile to reconcile later. And an in-person meeting is for residents who need a human being to walk them through it. Consider offering a session in the community room with a board member or manager and a tablet. You sit with them, you walk them through it, and they cast their ballot. Nobody gets left out because of a technology barrier. The next strategy is, this one's genuinely underappreciated. You can do everything right in terms of outreach and still lose votes at the finish line if the ballot itself is confusing. Think about what it feels like to open a document full of legal language and try to figure out what you are actually being asked to decide. For a resident who already felt uncertain about voting online, that is often the moment they close the window and move on. Plain language sounds obvious until you look at how most HOA ballots are actually written. Some have candidate bios full of difficult to understand references. Others have questions phrased the way a governing document would phrase them rather than the way a person would actually read them. Rewriting in plain language takes extra effort, but it meaningfully reduces abandonment. Having an easy to read font size is about respecting who is actually in your community. If a resident has to, squint to read the candidate names, you've already created friction for them. Catching a missed or invalid selection before the resident submits means they do not have to wonder later whether their ballot counted. It removes a source of anxiety from the process. And the confirmation screen after they voted is the moment a resident goes from uncertain to confident. That clear message telling them their vote was recorded is the thing they think back on when they wonder if it worked. An MIT voting technology project found that ballot design errors account for up to 2% of spoiled ballots in traditional elections. In a close HOA election, that margin can be the difference between reaching quorum and starting over or having an actual successful election. And this next strategy tends to unlock board conversations that were previously stuck. Going digital does not mean abandoning paper. It means running both in the same system at the same time. A lot of boards resist online voting because they are worried about leaving certain residents behind. The hybrid model takes that concern off the table entirely. For residents comfortable with technology, they get their link by email or text, they vote in seconds from their couch, and get confirmation of their vote immediately. For residents uncomfortable with technology, they get a paper ballot by mail, fill it out, send it back, and then that vote is entered into the digital system so both are tracked in the same place. The board sees one unified quorum tracker, one results report, with no reconciliation headaches and no separate process to manage. Communities that start hybrid rarely stay hybrid forever, too. When residents who are skeptical of online voting actually experience it, most of them prefer it the next time around. Digital adoption tends to grow on its own once residents have tried it once. And boards can phase out paper gradually as that happens, entirely on their own timeline. And now I want to talk to you guys about one of the most underrated operational advantages of running elections digitally, and that is having real-time visibility into participation while an election is still open. With paper elections, you have no idea where you stand until you count the ballots after the deadline. If you're going to miss quorum, you find out when it's too late and there's nothing you can do about it. With live quorum tracking, you know exactly where you stand on day 1, day 3, day 5, and so on. And you can act on that when you see it. The participation tab inside Ballot List shows you exactly which eligible units have cast a ballot and which have not, which allows you to become more targeted in your reminders. You're sending specifically to the units that have not voted yet, which is a completely different level of precision than just blasting everyone and hoping the right people see it. And here's a realistic scenario. You are on day 4 of a 14-day election. Participation is around 32%. You open the participation tab, see exactly which units have not voted, and you send several targeted reminders throughout the week to just those people. By the end of the voting period, you're at 71%. You hit quorum without having to make a single phone call. That outcome comes from having the right information at the right time and a way to act on it immediately. And on that note, guys, I'm going to go ahead and segue into showing you how that can be done in our system, how easy it is. I'm going to walk you through the entire process here in a live demonstration. And to start, this is the email or example of an email that the resident would receive. Now, some things to note here, branding. We do offer this as part of our packages. There's no extra fee for that. So when they receive the email, they can have it be coming from the name of the association, so they are comfortable knowing it's coming from an authentic source. They can see the community or company logo of your company or community. And then you can customize a message that shows up in that email. And then below is the unique code and link that they would receive. And the way this works is literally, and I'm doing this because I know, but it's going to ask them once they click on this link, it's going to show them the code here and ask them to fill in the last 4. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then literally once I do that, without having to do any kind of registration or anything of that nature, it brings me straight into the ballot. It's going to have me first confirm that I am, in fact, who I say I am. We do support multi-unit voting, so if I had multiple units, they would just show up as checkboxes here that I can check off to confirm. As I mentioned, they will default to receiving an email receipt immediately upon submission. Here's an example of an election where you can see we support images, links to separate bios, the actual election. I'm going to go ahead and place my vote. They have 3 seats being voted on here, but I just want to pick 2 and abstain on 1. Also asking for approval of a budget and a little area to ask for extra comments if they wanted to, not required in this case. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit. And there we are. That took maybe 40 seconds. I was talking a lot, of course, but could have been even faster if I wasn't explaining it. And of course, here's our confirmation immediately. And then the email should already be back in my inbox. Oop, don't mind all the spam, guys. This is meant for that. And here's my vote was received email. So this is the validation that they get, which just, you can't get that with physical mail. It's impossible. Now, circling back over here, now, bear with me, guys, because it's a secure system. It's going to force me to log out and log back into my administrative account. Okay. So back over to our community. Now I'm on the administrative side, right? So this is what the person, either the board member or the manager would see. And down here is our actual election. Here's the one that we were just looking at. And I just want to show you guys real quick the ease of use with building these ballots in our system. So this one's already built, but I'm going to go into what we call the ballot builder. This is the section where we can create the actual voting form. And below, you'll see some of the information that we were just looking at, right? Here's our pictures, here's our links. This is all information that, you guys can put in here. We can train you on it. And we also, for extra fee, can do this part for you and just build your ballot form based on your requirements. So it's even easier if you want it to be, but super easy nonetheless for us to even just show you how to use this. Basically, you build it out based on the components that you want them to see, such as, for example, multi-choice for an election, single choice maybe for just a yes or no amendment. Formatted text is where you can see, we dropped in some images and links and such, full rich text editor, so you can put any kind of fonts, again, make the fonts bigger if you need to for an older population, and so on. And then as I'm building it, I can go into the voter view here, which shows me exactly what they would see. So I can make sure it's perfect before going live with it. So really super easy to build, and then also very super easy to send. Now, let's just say it's all built out. I want to get it out there now. I've activated it. In the communications area is where we can structure and send our voting invitations. And also standard announcements as well. We support non-voting invite that can be sent prior to voting windows. So if you have information you want them to know about in advance of the ballot that doesn't actually ask them to vote, that's what the announcement would be. Otherwise, if you're ready for them to start voting, you can send those invitations. Notice that it already is showing the ballot that we were just selecting it from, so you don't have to worry about selecting which ballot. And down below is where I can select what type of method I want them to receive it in, email, text. The physical mail, what that does is puts it, basically the instructions that they would receive via email or text to vote electronically is put into a PDF format that you could then print out and include in those for those people that don't receive the electronic stuff. And you can put a quick subject, message with the text with the email, as I showed you guys before on that, how it would show up. And then you just preview the list and send. Now, circling back over to the ballot administrative area, once a ballot's in play, you can always see participation. So I can go in as votes are coming in, even if it's a secret ballot, which we do support, and I can always just see who has and hasn't voted from here. And then I can go and send targeted reminders just to those people, not spamming the ones who have already cast their vote, and of course, making it harder to get their participation in the future. Another thing you can do from here is manually add those votes that are coming in either via paper at the meeting itself, or even if people are voting on the floor. And it's a very super fast and simple, it's all keyword searchable. So let's just say Sandy was voting on the floor, or you're counting her vote at the meeting from the paper ballot she submitted. I can just go quickly search her up from here. There she is, click her name. Now in this case, Sandy already voted, that's why these are grayed out, but had they not been, you can see that she owns multiple units, so I can just, this one's not been voted on, so I can do that here, select the options, and then submit it. I can attach that paper ballot to it as a record. And then on top of that, when it's done by the administrator, it does show up here as a proxy that was done by that person. So you have record of the fact that it was done by the administrator and not by the person themselves. And then the results themselves. So the act of unsealing is something that gets logged into an audit trail, an administrative audit trail. So the idea being that everything's tracked. There's no way that someone could call into question what happened and when, because we track it all for you. So this one's already unsealed. But if it weren't, it would show a little lock symbol, and when I click it, it would give me a message saying you're about to unlock this. This is an irreversible action. Do you wish to continue? And so it's a very deliberate action. Then once it's unsealed, we provide both chart as well as table format. Table can be exported. In this case, this is not a secret ballot, so I can see who voted for what here. If it were, it would redact that information automatically. And then I can download those if I need to. Then we do this thing called a ballot summary report that can be downloaded. And I'm going to show that to you guys here in just a second. Before I do that, here's the audit trail I was speaking of. So it records everything that the administrator does and when it was done. Now, this is showing a deleted result because this is a not secret ballot, which administrators can revoke a vote. It does get logged in there showing what the previous vote was, so you have record of the fact that it was deleted. Otherwise, if it's secret, they don't have the ability to do that because they can't see who voted for what, if that's the case. And then that final nail in the coffin, so to speak, is the summary report, which is right over here. And so this basically compiles everything into one PDF. This would be once everything is finally tallied in the system and has been unsealed officially, you can download this, and this is something that you can provide to the board or to the residents to confirm, and it does include that audit trail in it, that administrative audit trail as well. So very super easy. We have not experienced many people that have difficulties with figuring it out. All right. So I might have skipped a slide here, guys. Just bear with me. Oh. Apologies. There we go. Okay. So now that you've seen Ballot Bliss, I'd like you guys to take a quick look at the two columns on your screen. On the left, you have the traditional voting process, and on the right, you have the Ballot Bliss experience. I want to walk you through the left side first because seeing it laid out step by step is a useful reminder of how much we ask of residents when we run a paper election. To begin with, a resident has to remember that there's an election happening in the first place. Then, depending on how your community runs it, they're looking at one of two paths. If they're voting by mail, they have to fill out the ballot correctly with no errors, find an envelope and a stamp, and get it in the mail before the postmark deadline. And then they walk away with no confirmation of if it arrived and or was counted. If they're voting in person, they have to find out when and where the session's being held, arrange transportation if needed, show up during the designated window, wait their turn, fill out the ballot correctly right there on the spot, hand it in, and walk away with, again, no confirmation it was counted. And finally, if they aren't able to attend in person, they have to go through an entirely separate process to appoint a proxy to vote on their behalf. Now, let's look at the right side. A resident receives an invitation by email or text. They open it, click the secure link, enter their access code, make their selections, and hit submit. They see a confirmation screen immediately and receive a confirmation email shortly thereafter. This entire process is completable from anywhere at any time on any device connected to the internet. Every step you remove from that process is a barrier you are eliminating for a resident who might otherwise not have voted at all. And in an election where you need 50 to 67% participation, every one of those votes matters. And I would like to take one more temperature check here, guys. After seeing the hybrid voting model in action, what would be your biggest hurdle to implementing it? I'll give everybody about 15 to 20 seconds here. We do appreciate your participation in these, guys. Okay. I'm seeing that some people are concerned with the idea of setting it up, and some others are saying that they think resident adoption might be an issue. Definitely two things that we hear a lot for sure. Give everybody here another 5 to 10 seconds. Awesome. All right. Again, thank you guys so much. This does truly help us with driving our future development. So let me quickly pull together what the platform does, because I want you to leave today with a clear picture of what you would actually be bringing into your community. You get everything in one place: online votes, proxies, and mailed-in ballots captured and tallied together in a single system, real-time accountability with audit trails that track every vote and every action, truly secret ballots, and I didn't go into great detail about those, but when we say truly secret, we mean that on those, the results are not just hidden as far as who voted for it. We literally make it so that even we couldn't go back and tell you who voted for what in our system. It truly separates those details. So truly secret ballots that give residents, complete privacy without compromising the integrity of the results. Professional reports and visual charts so you can finalize elections with confidence. And post-election communications that let you share outcomes with residents through their preferred channel and language, so the community stays informed from start to finish. And of course, the result of this should be happier customers, or residents, so to speak, in this case. Having the additional option of being able to place their votes remotely and securely, as in the situation of someone who maybe doesn't live at their unit year-round, makes this a powerful solution. This is a more recent testimonial from a client that is with First Service after we helped their association reach quorum for the first time since the community was created some 20 some odd years ago. To help their community increase participation, they used the charts in Ballot Bliss to regularly show progress to their board. They sent daily reminders to their residents to vote, along with extending vote windows so that they could get additional residents to vote. And as a result, they were able to pass 9 out of 10 amendments on that first ballot using us. And one of those that they passed was the one that basically reduced the amount needed to pass future amendments. So it worked out in a multitude of different ways for them. This is a testimonial from one of our clients that's been using our voting now for a few years. They had an 80% turnout on their last election due to the convenience of having it online. And 80 is an insane number to hear in an HOA election, I think, as most of you might realize. So what happens next? Here is how you can get started if you want to learn more. You can schedule a consultation online. If you go to ballotbliss.com, you'll see the big button on the top right, or you can just type in ballotbliss.com/book a demo. There's no pressure, no sales script. That's just a kind of a discovery call about your community situation to determine if we might be a good fit. We do provide hands-on support. We'll import your community data. We'll walk you through the platform. We'll be there with training and support every step of the way. You can vote hassle-free. Your residents cast ballots in seconds via a personalized email or text invite. They have no login needed. And of course, real impact is the hope. So higher participation, greater resident trust, and the ability to move faster on the decisions that matter the most to your community. And as a thank you to you guys who have stuck around this long in our webinar, I want to make sure that everybody knows about an offer that's available to you guys as of right now. If you guys sign up before June 30th of this year, we'll offer you a 20% discount on your first ballot with us. The ballots you purchase can be used anytime within a 1-year period of purchase. So even if you have your election in Q1 of next year, you can purchase it now before the deadline and see some savings on it. Just mention in the demo when you book it that you were part of this webinar, and we'll make sure to apply that to your first purchase. And then real quick, before we move on, I want to give you something tangible that you guys can take back to your next board meeting. we're sending out the resident engagement playbook along with the recording, so you have it ready before your next conversation. So that'll be included in the excuse me, in the follow-up email that we send out to you guys. And right before we go and do the Q&A stuff, I wanted to briefly just let you guys know about a few updates to the platform, because we are, enhancing it. As I mentioned, the polls and everything has been so that we can make improvements. And these are worth knowing about. So one is the new ballot summary report. So that report I showed you, that is a enhanced report. We're actually, going to be adding more to it, better detail, more organized, and just easier to share with the board and to your residents. We're also going to be enhancing the audit trail that I showed you guys, so it'll track more things. Every ballot status change and archive action is now going to be automatically recorded. So you get a clear, verifiable history of every action taken throughout the election, no gaps, no ambiguity. And then the final is voter opt-in for ballots. So residents can now indicate whether they prefer to vote online or by paper ballot, making it easier to plan outreach and ensure every resident has a path to participate. And last poll, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. I want to know, where are you landing after today? What is it that you would like to do based on what you've seen today? I'm going to go ahead and open that up to you guys. And again, we do appreciate your participation in these. All right. See, we have a few people that are looking to share this with their boards. We appreciate that. And at least one customer in here. Thank you for being with us. Awesome. We'll make sure, like I said, everybody's going to get a copy of this recording, as well as the playbook that I referred to as well. All right. Moving on to the Q&A. I do see that a few people have left some questions. Okay. Someone asked if we capture the voter's signature. That's a good question. So we have been asked about adding a type of like e-signature component. I guess that would be something that I would usually ask the question back, what do you mean by signature? Because there's things like a free-form box where they can use the mouse to just literally try to mouse out their signature. And then there's also like official e-signature services like DocuSign that go a step further with validating the signatures and such. Right now, we don't have anything like either of those. One of those clearly being a little bit easier to implement if it was something that we have enough people asking about. But right now, it's all driven by that ballot builder section that I showed you guys. So it's questions, you can set how many answers and such that they can select, but there's no specific signature component. But that is a good question, and we will, I always let the dev team know when people are asking about those kind of things so that we can keep track of what people are asking for. So it may be something that we do in the future. All right, let's see. So what's your advice for managers and boards who are convinced their residents are just not tech savvy enough for online voting? Okay, so that's kind of what we're trying to get at for this webinar. I mean, the whole question is how we get better adoption. So we've heard this question come up in a lot of conversations we've had with managers and boards. And one thing that really helps is offering residents multiple ways to cast their vote. It's not about just trying to drive them towards online. Even for residents who aren't as tech savvy, text messages tend to be easier than email. And even if a resident isn't comfortable with text messages, they can still vote by paper. So just giving them as many options as possible and hoping to see what comes in, kind of thing, Okay, how quickly can I start using it? So that depends on when your deadline is, so we've done expedited setups for communities before that needed it within a few days, but Generally speaking, it's gonna come down to several different factors. You probably want to keep in mind about your timelines surrounding your state with regard to statutes and laws, as well as your governing documents. But our opinion is the earlier the better. The earliest that you can set up before you have to use it is better, because then you can start getting as much communications out to people beforehand as possible. And we do have several help articles and interactive guides and a support team that can help you along the way in that regard too. So we don't just leave you hanging when you sign on. And let me see. Okay. Looks like that's all the questions for now. If anybody's still in here and has questions, you can put them in right now. Otherwise, we do appreciate you being here and spending the time. Be on the lookout for that email. And oh, looks like we might have one question that just came in last second. Do you capture the owner's name and email when they are registering, so we know who is logging in with the code? So the way that works is we are validating that information before you go live. So the first step of that process when you set up is that we're going to get your resident list and their emails and the address information. And there's a validation tool that we use that looks for things, anomalies, like an email being used by two different people, those kind of things, so that we can make sure that all of it's accurate before it goes live. So that when they go to do their, and it's not a registration, again, they don't have to actually register. What happens is it creates a unique link for each person. So it's not like these links are the same. They can't just throw them around to other people. Each one is unique to that person. They click it, it asks them to enter that code, and it brings them straight to the ballot. There's no other separate process on their end. And again, you can always see who has and hasn't voted as well for any ballot in our system. Participation is something that's tracked and easy to find for administrators. So, great questions, guys. Thank you. And of course, if any other questions come in, feel free to reach out to us directly. If you didn't get your questions answered in this webinar, you can just email us directly at sales@ballotsblitz.com. We do pick up our phone, so feel free to call us 877-277-7590. Otherwise, again, if you're ready to take that next step, definitely go to ballotbliss.com and book a demo. We'd love to talk more and show you more of the app if you want to. So thanks again so much, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks, guys. Take care.